Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hi, I'm Beaumont and welcome to Secrets Exposed. This is the series that takes you up close and personal with world-leading business experts. And our topic for this interview is how to better manage safety in the workplace. That coming up in just a moment. My special guest today is successful entrepreneur Kelvin Holliday, and our topic for this interview is how to better manage safety in your workplace. Kelvin, welcome.
Thanks, Dale. Great to be here.
All right, so what are the top 5 reasons why business owners must pay attention to workplace safety?
I think firstly, it's really important to value our teams. And when you've got a safe workplace, it's actually really showing you're actually valuing the safety of your team, which is one of those inherent things that, within ourselves, that emotional sort of state. If we're actually feeling safe, we're feeling happy. So that's a big part of it. I think also when we start to think about that idea of having an injury, is how we care for our people is if there is an injury or something like that is a very important part, and to know there is safety procedures. So I think knowing not only that we're caring for them, but that we've actually got something in place for them. There's also the fact that from a monetary point of view, and that's where a lot of people go to in business, is what is the cost? And so if we're actually looking after the safety of our people, it's actually going to look well at our bottom line as well. So some of the statistics around that, for instance, if you get people having time off, right, it's 1.4 days a year that is on average within the Australian. It's actually even larger in some other countries that people are having off. So that's a big cost to the economy and a big cost to your business. I think also we're having work health and safety in place, and as well is the fact that it's actually a legal component of our society.
So it's something that we're really required to do. We can't just go, I'll choose to avoid it. It really is a must. If you are running a company, what is your obligations? Yeah,
so we must have policies and procedures in place. All that area around safety is viewed by all countries of the world now as a very important part. And so, no, it's not an ad hoc thing. We'll just get around to it when we can. You should actually have your work health and safety set up before you actually start business and employ anybody. So it's not only about looking after yourself, but anybody you're coming into. And also, it might be other people, so other visitors to your business as well. So it's having those things set up so it is a total obligation on you as the business owner.
So, and this should be done before you employ any staff, is you need to have some policies in place for how to deal with issues around workplace safety.
Yeah, that's correct. It is an essential part, and look, there's plenty of resources around to be able to help people get that, and that's a really important part. You don't have to do it alone, and there are consultants around there, but there's plenty of free resources that we can get to make sure that you are compliant from day one very easily.
Yeah, so if people are feeling a bit sort of vulnerable and going, gee, I sort of skipped a few of those steps, I just sort of jumped straight in, I've got 5 or 6 staff, and I've got a team now, and I'm not too sure if I've done any of those steps. What should they do next?
Well, I think the easiest way is get online. There is a mountain of information. So if you're in Australia, so Safe Work Australia is a great resource. They have literally dozens of policies there that will get you up and running that's in Word format, and then you can actually put your own name into it, look at them, and they tell you how to implement those within your business as well. So it's a very quick start. Generally, as the entrepreneur, you're probably better off to assign that maybe to somebody else, because if you haven't done it first already, maybe you need somebody else to actually keep you accountable for that. And that's the same around the world as well.
Yeah, because we do have people watch these videos from all around the world. So are there equivalencies in different countries, and is workplace safety something that is worldwide, a worldwide kind of requirement?
Most definitely. So in Australia, as I said, is Safe Work. So in America, for instance, the Department of Labour, and in most other countries, it's actually called either occupational health and safety or work health and safety. And most countries, like UK, Singapore, have got those, and they call them the Occupational Health and Safety Council or the Occupational Health and Safety Board. So a very quick Google search will take you to those. There's also a very good resource which is being developed right now, and that's called OSI. So it's an Organisation for Standards internationally, and so when you get those sort of standards coming up, so there's the OSI 45001, which is just coming out at the moment. And that is a really good document.
Is that different to the ISO?
It's the same organisation.
Okay.
So the ISO is the actual standard, OSI is the actual organisation. So organisational standards industry is the organisation, and then
it.
you have the actual ISO is the standards that goes by. So you have all these different acronyms, but 45001 is the one that's really getting developed at the moment. So it should be released by November 2017, but there's some white papers on that at the moment that's really get some good
All right,
conversations.
what happens if people say, I'm going to switch off, I really don't need this, I'm just going to kind of run the risk? What are the consequences if people ignore this information?
It's like any risk in business, you've got to manage it. And there is some fairly heavy risk. So if you've got nothing in place and you can be seen to be ignoring it and there is an injury in your workplace, the ramifications are quite severe. So obviously you've got to look after your workers. So they might be covered by a workers' compensation policy, but if you're deemed to be liable because you haven't actually had a safe workplace, you can be in some serious trouble.
It really is like running red traffic lights, right? You're just driving in the car and you might be fine for 5 or 10 sets of lights, but eventually you're going to get wiped out.
That's exactly right. Yeah, all those sort of analogies. It's a really important thing to know that you will get caught out, and the reality is now part of these new standards that are coming out around the world is they're going to start doing spot checks. Now that's already happening around the world in construction industry. In the mining industry, in the scuba diving industry. It's already happening in those industries where the work cover inspectors or those occupational health inspectors are coming in and inspecting places.
Because lives are at stake.
Because lives are at stake. And so it won't be long before they go across a lot of other industries.
So what components make up workplace safety? So you can just kind of people see it as a broad topic, but are there different components and elements that you need? What are some of those?
Yeah, so you have to have some sort of identification process. So identifying what the hazards and what the risks are is the first step. And having a risk matrix, so knowing what around your workplace is a hazard, that's the first part. And then you have to have some way to identify, well, if something does happen, so what's going to be the outcome of that? So managing that risk, and also having some way of controlling the level of what's going on in that as well. So it's called a hierarchy. So do you have to eliminate that problem completely, or is it just one of those hazards that's going to be in the workplace that is going to be there no matter what you do, but how do you protect your people? So there's quite a few aspects that you've got to think about. So can I eliminate a problem completely, or can I manage it with maybe some protective eye equipment or headphones or whatever it might be to be able to secure it? So there's lots of different elements that makes up the whole health and safety aspect. And one of the other ones is really about not only just the physical part, but also the mental part as well.
All right, yeah, we'll talk about that more. But you said the assessment is really important. Is that something you can do yourself to go through your business and identify what are the potential risks or hazards?
100%. Look, I find that work health and safety is really, in some respects, a little bit of common sense. And sometimes, just like when you read a document, you might write something yourself, you miss that word, and you've got to keep on reading over it. You need somebody else to come in to have a look at that sometimes. So having a team of people to be able to have a look at what the hazards are is a vital part of good work health and safety policy. So having a look at it, common sense practice, and if it looks like it's dangerous, it probably is.
Okay, so for example, if you've got railings going up and they're not properly secure, there could be people could sort of slip through quite literally and fall. What do you do? How do you identify what the solutions would be? Is it putting up a sign? Is it kind of
so that's where that hierarchy comes in. So it's always about getting the best solution. So if there's a trip hazard, you could put on, protective equipment to stop. So if you fell over, you're not going to get hurt as bad. But maybe you could actually put a barrier up, which stops a person from actually getting to that trip hazard first. So that hierarchy is a very, very important one. And the aim is always to get the best level. So the best level is to eliminate the problem completely. But in some cases, that's not possible.
Yeah.
Also, with a lot of work health and safety policy and the way in which it's legislated, is we understand that there is a cost, and all the governments, organisations know that there's a cost to actually creating a safe workplace, and sometimes cost even becomes the barrier to be able to make it effective. So there's been quite a few different comments around what's reasonably practicable to be able to do in a workplace. So sometimes we say, oh well, we can't actually do the best solution because it's just physically impossible. It's cost effective to be able to do it. So we might come down a level into something that's reasonably affordable.
Okay. Great. We're going to take a short break. When we get back, we're going to continue with this very important interview about workplace safety. We've got some questions to ask in terms of how do you implement this into your business? How do you actually prevent, like we've said, a lot of issues from happening in the first place? But then if something does happen, what should you do about it? And we're also going to talk about some of the oftentimes unseen issues in the workplace, which could involve mental health as well. So keep watching. Welcome back to the next part of our interview with Kelvin, where we're talking about how to better manage safety in your workplace. So let's now continue, and we sort of were alluding to the fact that it's always better, prevention is sort of better than cure. Yeah. So walk us through what we can do in terms of prevention and how do we sort of try and eliminate some of these risks.
All right, so as I was saying before, it's really about identifying them first. So quite often, when any risks are around, we've got to literally walk through our premises. Also think about those areas where our workers are going to go outside. And there's a simple risk sheet that we'd actually complete to be able to see what are those potential hazards there are.
So if you have workers that are in a physical office, obviously you're walking around and doing that. What about if you're, say, running a trade-based business and you've got workers on the road on different sites that you're not in control of, in and out of vehicles? How do you manage that?
So every situation, every location should have a risk assessment done on it.
Right.
So if you're in an office, there would be a risk assessment done for the office. There will be a risk assessment done for your travel. There'll be a risk assessment done for any site. So quite often, if it's only a short-term site, they might have a general risk assessment done for most domestic sites, for instance. Every site should have its own risk assessment done, and once you've actually got this collective pool, you'll then have a good set of what we call generalised risks or generalised hazards, and then you actually come out with what's the protocol around that. So if there is an injury, how do we actually achieve the best result possible?
Okay, so once we've identified the potential risks, so we've come up with a hierarchy and we've come up with what are the simple things.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.